You couldn't predict what's about to happen to you even if you tried. Something is changing around you right now, and you have no idea about it. It already started. You just haven't seen the evidence yet. Because the truth is, the universe does not keep people in one season permanently, and your season is about to change in a way you are completely unprepared for. Every season of life has its own weight, and whether people realize it or not, human lives move in seasons the same way nature does. Nothing blooms permanently, nothing stays frozen forever. Even storms have an expiration date. But here's what most people never understand. Right before a major shift happens, life usually becomes incredibly heavy. Not because the universe abandoned you, because pressure is what separates one version of you from another. Look at diamonds. They are not formed in comfort. Look at storms. The clearest skies often appear after violent weather. Even a seed must completely break open before anything living can emerge from it. And people experience the exact same thing spiritually. The miracle isn't ahead of you. You already lived through the worst of it. Most people spend their lives waiting for the good part to finally begin without realizing the hardest phase of their breakthrough already happened. It happened during the nights where nothing made sense, during the moments where you felt abandoned, overlooked, emotionally exhausted, and completely unsure where your life was even going. What if that wasn't meaningless suffering? What if that was the price of separation between your old season and your new one? Because when people imagine miracles, they imagine the arrival, they imagine the reward, the open doors, the sudden happiness. But they never think about the breaking process that usually comes first. Nobody talks about the loneliness before the expansion, the confusion before the clarity, the pressure before the shift. But that part matters. Some blessings enter your life disguised as survival first. And that's why you need to give yourself more credit than you do right now. You made it through seasons that honestly should have broken you emotionally. There were moments where your future looked completely blank, and somehow you still kept moving forward without fully understanding why. That matters, because the universe does not drag people through the hardest chapter of their story just to abandon them before the ending changes. The hard part is done. What's arriving now is not another punishment or another endless lesson. It's the part where everything finally begins, revealing why you had to become this version of yourself first. This is where a lot of people accidentally block their own new season. They pray for change. They ask for a new life. They beg the universe for an opportunity, a breakthrough, a miracle. But the moment life finally starts opening up, panic kicks in. Suddenly the mind starts saying, "This can't really be for me. I'm probably going to ruin this. This feels too good to last." And without realizing it, people start shrinking themselves back into old emotional patterns because struggle feels more familiar than expansion. That's the trap, because your old season trained you to expect disappointment. It trained you to emotionally prepare for loss before good things could fully arrive. So when something real finally enters your life, your first instinct may actually be fear instead of gratitude. But understand this, the universe is not waiting for you to become perfect before allowing your life to improve. You do not need to have every wound healed before receiving something better. You do not need complete confidence before stepping into a new chapter. You do not need to fully understand why something good is happening in order to accept it. This next season is not asking you to become smaller, safer, or more doubtful. It's asking you to stop running back to the version of yourself that believed better things could never last. One of the strangest things about entering a new season is that you suddenly stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everybody. Not because you're hiding, not because you're scared. You just start realizing that not every vision needs an audience before it becomes real. There are some people who announce every plan immediately, every goal immediately, every idea immediately, and then wonder why their energy starts feeling scattered afterward. But when something truly important starts forming in your life, your spirit naturally becomes more selective with who gets access to it. The universe will often make you quieter before it makes you larger. And I think a lot of you are entering that phase right now. You're becoming more careful with your energy, your attention, your future, and honestly, that's a good sign. Because not everybody around you can understand where you're headed while you're still becoming it yourself. Sometimes people project their own limits onto things they were never meant to touch. That's why certain dreams feel safer growing in private before they fully arrive in reality. Think about how nature works. Seeds grow underground first. The foundation is built before anything becomes visible, and people are the same way. Some seasons are public, other seasons are deeply protected. This season feels protected, not hidden forever, just protected long enough for it to become strong enough that outside opinions can no longer shake it. And now it's time for today's comment of the day. Do not beg for clarity. The second you chase it, it runs faster and farther. Let it rise as it was always within you. This one feels almost like advice you understand after exhausting yourself searching for answers. A lot of people chase clarity aggressively, overthinking, forcing conclusions, trying to make everything make sense immediately. But the harder you grip, the more distant peace can feel. And I also like the let it rise part. Because sometimes clarity doesn't arrive through force. Sometimes it surfaces naturally when the noise settles, when the pressure eases, when you finally stop fighting yourself long enough to hear what was already there. Thank you for sharing this. The interesting thing about miracles is that they never arrive the same way for everybody. The universe doesn't move every person into their best chapter using the exact same blueprint. Some people are entering a season of expansion. Others are entering a season of surprise. And some are entering a season of restoration. The first theme is the upgrade. This is where everything starts leveling up at the same time. Not just one area of life, everything. The people around you start changing. Your standards start changing. The environments that once felt acceptable suddenly feel emotionally cheap to you. And the weird part is, you're not even forcing it. You just physically cannot settle the same way anymore. That's not arrogance. That's preparation. The universe raises your standards before it raises your reality. A lot of people in this season think they're becoming too picky, when in reality, they're becoming emotionally incompatible with what no longer matches their future. The second theme is the plot twist. This season is different because your miracle is not coming through the door you've been staring at. In fact, it may arrive through something you almost ignored completely, a random opportunity, an unexpected connection, a situation that initially makes zero sense, and suddenly your entire life changes direction from something you never planned for. The biggest shifts in life usually enter from directions your logic stopped monitoring. People in this season are about to experience one of those moments where they sit there afterward thinking, how did that even happen? And finally, the third theme is the return. This one is powerful because it's not about gaining something completely new. It's about recovering parts of yourself that life slowly drained out of you. The confidence, the excitement, the momentum. The sense that life still has something beautiful ahead of you. But this time, it returns differently, stronger, wiser, more protected. People in this season usually feel it before they can explain it. It's like something that went emotionally cold inside them is quietly beginning to warm back up again. And if none of these feel like where you're headed, don't panic. That doesn't mean nothing is coming. It may simply mean your season hasn't fully revealed itself yet, or the universe is preparing something even rarer than what you expected. Sometimes I think people completely underestimate how statistically absurd their existence actually is. And I don't mean that in the generic motivational way where people say you're unique. I mean mathematically absurd. Think about how many things had to happen perfectly just for you to exist in this exact moment. Every decision your parents made, every person your grandparents met, every near miss, every delay, every random event across generations that could have changed the entire chain permanently. One different conversation, one different choice, one different day, and you never would have been here, not just alive, here specifically, in this exact moment of awareness, with this exact mind, during this exact season of your life. That's what becomes mind-bending when you really think about it. Because people act like their existence is accidental while ignoring the impossible precision it took to create it. The universe has been arranging circumstances around your existence long before you became conscious enough to notice it. And if that level of intelligence, alignment, and precision was active enough to bring you all the way here, why would it suddenly disappear now just because life became confusing for a few seasons? It wouldn't. The same force that carried entire generations, shifted timelines, created impossible connections, and navigated millions of variables just to position you here is still operating right now. That means your current season is not outside the blueprint either. Even the delays, even the setbacks, even the chapters that felt pointless at the time. Because sometimes what looks random from human perspective is actually precision from a higher perspective. And maybe that's what some of you need to remember right now. Your life may feel uncertain, but uncertainty is not the same thing as abandonment. The intelligence that brought you this far did not suddenly lose track of your future. There's an uncomfortable truth most people never talk about. The people who go through the longest, strangest, most emotionally confusing transitions are usually not being punished. They're being prepared for something far more significant than ordinary lives require. Because easy paths do not demand much from a person. Easy paths rarely force someone to become powerful internally. They rarely force deep self-awareness. They rarely force emotional endurance. But difficult paths do. And I know some of you are exhausted from constantly feeling like your life has required more patience, more resilience, and more rebuilding than the people around you. It can genuinely feel unfair sometimes watching other people arrive at things so easily while your own path keeps unfolding in slow motion. But what if the complexity of your journey is directly connected to the scale of where it's leading? Because think about it logically. The larger the structure, the deeper the foundation needs to be. Nobody spends years preparing someone for an ordinary destination. The difficulty of your path is not evidence that you are forgotten. It may be evidence that your future required more of you. And honestly, some of the strongest people you will ever meet are people who spent years walking through seasons that made no sense while still refusing to completely lose faith in themselves. That changes a person permanently. One of the strangest things about entering a major new season in life is that reality itself starts feeling unusually coordinated. And I'm not talking about vague, signs from the universe that people force themselves to see in everything. I mean very specific moments that feel almost disturbingly timed, the kind of moments that make you stop for a second afterward because the probability of them happening that way feels almost impossible. You randomly overhear somebody say the exact thing you needed to hear without ever speaking your question out loud. A person from your past suddenly reappears after years of silence, right when you were internally revisiting that chapter emotionally. You wake up at strange hours with ideas arriving fully formed in your mind, like they were waiting for you to finally become quiet enough to receive them. And maybe the weirdest one of all is how opportunities start appearing disguised as inconveniences. That's a huge one, because most people miss life-changing doors specifically because they were expecting miracles to look emotionally comfortable immediately. But many of the biggest turning points in human life arrive looking confusing at first. A cancelled plan that redirects you somewhere better. An unexpected conversation that alters your thinking permanently.